Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Loft, where certainty takes a coffee break and curiosity runs the show. And today, this one's special. It's our season finale. We've spent a whole season here together, stretching ideas, untying knots, laughing at ourselves, and sometimes at the universe. So thank you for listening, for wondering, and for dreaming a little wider with us. And today, we will redefine dreaming wider in a radical way. Today's episode is about limitless possibilities. And my question is, what if everything you firmly believe is true is standing on slightly dodgy ground? Let's poke at a few of these, shall we? The idea that you're a separate entity, somehow disconnected from everything else. The notion that you're on a strictly linear journey, where the past is sealed off and untouchable. Or that there are just some things you can't do, like being in two places at once. We've been trained to think of those as fixed truths. But are they? So today, we're going to take a close look at these truths. We will gently poke at the boundaries that say, not possible, and see what happens. Today's quote quest comes from the poet William Blake, who I think was clued into this idea already. His poem, Auguries of Innocence, begins with these lines that make logic quietly excuse itself from the room. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. What does it really mean to see a world in a grain of sand? Or to hold infinity in your hand? There's an old song that says, on a clear day, you can see forever. Maybe that wasn't just poetic exaggeration. Maybe it was a hint that when perception clears, the boundaries we've built around reality start to blur. Perhaps Blake was telling us that everything contains everything else. That the vast and the minute are mirrors of one another. That eternity isn't waiting somewhere at the end of your life, it's folded into this very instant. The grain of sand doesn't represent the world, it is the world, just seen from another angle. So maybe the question isn't how to reach infinity, but how to notice it. Maybe forever isn't a destination, maybe it's what's been here all along. Patiently waiting for you to look up, look closer, and finally see. Now it's time for Mind Gym. As you may have realized, we're pulling out all stops on this episode. So today, for our finale, we're going to suspend the mind entirely during this segment. This may seem outrageous, but do it as a thought experiment. Try to emphasize and see how it feels, that kind of thing. So across many traditions, it is said that at the core, we are timeless and limitless. But when we step into this human experience, school, friends, social media, all the homework, group projects, and weekend plans, we pick up some limitations. We act as if we are small, separate, and stuck. Today we're going to play with the idea, what if they weren't true? Even just for the next few minutes. Think about your usual day, classes, deadlines, sports practice, scrolling through TikTok. Well, I hope not. You're living by the clock. The past is done, the future is coming, and the present barely gets a look. But what if time didn't exist? What if there was no past exam, no yesterday's fight, No upcoming math test. Even the thought of before or after didn't appear in your mind. Who are you without the clock, the calendar, the homework schedule? Imagine a few minutes where time simply doesn't apply to you. How free would that feel? Next, let's talk attachments. Think of all the I need this and I can't live without that moments. The latest sneakers, your favorite hoodie, that friend who always sits with you, your playlist, even a certain snack. Now imagine you could drop all of that. Not forever, just for now. You don't need to hold on to anything to exist. Who are you without needing approval, without needing that one person to text you back, without needing your stuff to make you happy? Finally, this is the big one, the idea that you're separate. Separate from your friends, from your family, from your teachers, from the planet, from the universe. What if that wasn't true? What if you are deeply, invisibly connected to everyone and everything? You're not a lone body trudging through life. You're part of a bigger flow, a network of experiences, feelings, and possibilities. What would change if you felt that connection right now? What if you're not bound by any of these limitations? Notice how it feels to step outside the boxes you've been living in. You don't have to believe in it forever. Just once in a while, when you've taken on a particular limitation too seriously, drop it for a few minutes, or heck, even a few seconds, and see how it feels. And who knows, playing with these ideas might just make you feel a little limitless, a little more curious, a little more free. Now, breakfast with the impossible. That little corner of the morning where we sit down with the kind of ideas that makes logic spill its coffee. Because here in the loft, the impossible usually just needs better lighting. So grab your favorite imaginary spoon, and today, let's take a deeper look at time. You see, our usual way of thinking paints time as a straight line. The past behind us, future ahead, and us desperately marching somewhere in between, armed with calendars and caffeine. But in many African traditions, time is not a line at all. It's a circle, a pool, a living thing that moves backwards. One of Africa's great philosophers, John Mbiti, proposed this in his 1969 work, African Religions and Philosophy. He said, time isn't a container that stretches endlessly forward. Instead, it's made of events, things that happen. And if nothing's happening yet, that moment simply doesn't exist. Mbiti described two dimensions of time in Swahili: Sasa, the now, the recent past, and the immediate future, the part of time we can feel, and Zamani, the vast, infinite past where everything that has ever happened continues to exist. The future, in this view, isn't real until it becomes experience. So time moves backwards, constantly folding into the great ocean of the past. People in this worldview don't spend time, they create it. A conversation, a season, a ritual, each one gives birth to time itself. Now, across the world, and many millennia earlier, the Vedas, the ancient Indian scriptures, had their own playful way of describing this mystery. There's a legend about a wise crow who sits outside the loop of time. He watches countless versions of the Ramayana, the epic story of Rama, unfold Sometimes with happy endings, sometimes with tragic ones, sometimes with twists no poet could predict. How can that be? Because the sages said everything happens in the eternal now. Every possible version, every possible ending already exists. We just experience one coordinate in that infinite field, like tuning into one frequency of a cosmic radio. The Vedas call this the Akasha, the vast field of consciousness where all events shimmer at once. From that view, time doesn't flow, it glimmers. And wouldn't you know it, quantum physics, that modern magician, is beginning to whisper something eerily similar. At the smallest scales, particles don't obey our tidy rules of before and after. In quantum entanglement, two particles light years apart can change together instantly, as if distance and time doesn't matter at all. Some physicists say time might not be a river, but a web, every point connected to every other, all existing simultaneously. So perhaps the whole obsession with running out of time or being too late is the biggest joke of all. You're not behind, you're not ahead. You're inside the perfect unfolding of everything that ever was and ever will be. So stop trying to control your life like a clockmaker guarding his gears. Loosen the grip. Let the grand design have its way. Laugh at your mistakes, at your goals, at the world and its stiff rules. Laugh even at the idea of catching up. You can't be late to infinity. So here's your breakfast takeaway. You're not here to manage time. You're here to play in it. Be curious. Follow what delights you. Trust the divine mischief of it all. Because if Mubiti, the Vedas, and quantum physics are all right, then you, my friend, are already exactly where and when you're meant to be. Now, for a slightly tilted tale. This story questions a rule most of us take for granted, that a person can only be in one place at a time. It comes from the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahamsa Yogananda, where a young Yogananda, still a schoolboy, meets a saint in the ancient city of Benares, one whose idea of being present goes far beyond our usual understanding. So this is a story of young Yogananda who was asked to go to Benares by his father since he had some business with his business acquaintance Kedarnath Babu. But he had lost his address, so he asked Yogananda to meet Swami Pranabananda, who's a common friend, who would then help him locate Kedarnath Babu. So he hands him 2 letters, one for Kedarnath Babu and the other introducing Yogananda to Swami Pranabananda. Eager to go, Yogananda travels to Benares and straight to the Swami's home, and inside he finds a stout, shaven-headed man seated calmly on a raised platform. The Swami greets him warmly as though welcoming an old friend, and even identifies him as Bhagavati's son before he could present the letter of introduction. Yogananda, amazed, handed it over anyway. The Swami assured him that he would help locate Kedarnath Babu. And before any further explanation, he grew silent and utterly still. Sensing Yogananda's rising impatience, the Swami suddenly said, "The man you seek will be here in half an hour." He then returned to silence, and right on time, after 30 minutes, he remarked, "He's nearly at the door." Yogananda hurried downstairs and met a stranger climbing up, a thin, fair-skinned man who immediately confirmed that he was Kedarnath Babu. Confused, Yogananda asked how he had arrived so precisely. Kedarnath Babu explained that less than an hour earlier, while bathing in the Ganges, the Swami had approached him personally and asked him to come. They had walked together for a while until the Swami abruptly declared he had something else to attend to, left him behind and disappeared in the crowd. Kedarnath had then hurried to the house on foot. Yogananda was stunned. He revealed that the Swami had never moved from the room since his arrival. Realizing the impossibility of what they had just both experienced, They returned to the Swami, who sat exactly as before. Seeing their confusion, Swami Pranabananda smiled gently. "Why be astonished?" he said. "The unity behind all things is clear to those who have truly awakened. Distance and matter do not obstruct them." Well, that's an interesting tale, isn't it? Maybe the point isn't whether you and me can appear in two places at once, but to realize that the boundaries we think define us might not be so solid after all. And as we wrap up this season here in the Loft, thank you for your presence, your questions, and all of your love. We wanted to close this chapter with a feeling that we hope stays with you for a long time. That you too are utterly, gloriously limitless. Keep shining bright. This is the Lucid Loft podcast, where wonder, wit, and joy are always on the guest list.